Attention all F1 fans, welcome to F1 Max. Get ready for an intense and exciting ride with F1 Max as we explore the dynamic between two Red Bull drivers, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. This season, Checo has shown tremendous potential to challenge for the Formula 1 World Championship, but with Red Bull still seeming to favour their golden boy, can Perez overcome the odds and secure the title for himself? Let's dive into the fascinating world of F1 politics and see if Checo is truly ready for a title fight. At the end of the 2020 F1 season, it looked like Sergio Perez had seen his time in Formula 1 come to an end. In his 8-season stretch with Force India and Racing Point, Perez had established himself as the fastest man in the midfield. In fact, the 2020 season was his best to that point, winning his first race. With Red Bull unhappy with Alex Albon's performances, they turned to Checo from 2021 onwards. This gave Perez the first title-challenging car of his career, but he has played the backup role to Max Verstappen so far. In 2021, Perez was able to claim one win as he often struggled to get anywhere near Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen. Checo was crucial in Max winning the title, often using his defense to slow down the Mercedes of Hamilton. It secured Perez another drive for 2022. With a dominant car on the grid, Perez claimed 2 wins as he was able to help Red Bull to their first Constructors' title since 2013. Up until this point, Sergio Perez has played the second driver role perfectly for Red Bull, but his start to this season could change that. At the time of writing, we're 5 races into the season, and Sergio Perez certainly looks like he can challenge for the title. While Max cruised to the victory in Bahrain, Perez was comfortably the fastest car in Saudi Arabia, thanks in part to the second pole position of his career. New power units held Checo back in Australia before he returned to winning ways with a masterful performance in Baku. Max Verstappen had plenty of chances to overtake Checo during the race, but Sergio was able to consistently hold a 2-second gap over Max after the safety car came out. While we did see Max fly past Checo in Miami, the differing strategies clearly benefited Max, with other drivers on the mediums at the end of the race also making overtakes. At the moment, Perez is just 14 points behind Max, with the European section of the calendar coming up. So could we actually see Perez fight for the title? Sergio Perez is certainly making it sound like Red Bull are going to let him challenge for the F1 title and fight against Max Verstappen. In an interview in the build-up to the Miami weekend, Perez said, "I think we've been treated equally. I've had as much opportunity as Max, especially now at the start of the season where we are both fighting." Perez added, "For Red Bull, the easiest thing would be to put team orders on lap 20 and save the cars. I think Red Bull is showing how a team should behave in these situations." Even after he was overtaken by Max Verstappen in the race, Perez reiterated that he was ready to challenge for the title. Perez told Sky Sports F1, "Having 3 kids at home, I wouldn't be traveling around the world if I didn't believe I could be world champion. I'm fighting for it, but I also know that it's a massive road ahead. I need to keep my head down and just keep delivering. Definitely, there's everything to believe that we can do well this year." Sergio Perez never really got the opportunity to fight for the title in his early career. After a single poor season with a terrible McLaren car, he remained in a midfield seat for almost the next decade before joining Red Bull. Considering he's had to wait so long for a car that can challenge at the front, it is no surprise Sergio Perez sounds ready for a title fight. But while it sounds like Perez is ready to take the fight to his teammate, are Red Bull going to allow Checo to fight Max? In the press, Red Bull and Christian Horner have been very clear that both Red Bull drivers are treated equally. Horner has spoken on the subject to the media. Red Bull's team boss said, "It's something that we experienced before, and I think the most key thing is to ensure that paranoia doesn't creep in, that both drivers are treated equally." Despite what Christian Horner said, I'm not sure that Red Bull have actually experienced something like this before. In their title-winning stretch at the start of the 2010s, Sebastian Vettel was clearly the faster driver. Red Bull were not afraid to make it clear that Mark Webber was the team's second driver, even if they would not say it publicly. More recently, we've seen Red Bulls fighting on track for position. Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo fought on track multiple times, including crashing in Baku and Hungary. So Red Bull have shown in the past that they have had to deal with teammates fighting against each other. However, something that they've not had to deal with before is teammates fighting for the title. Sergio Perez could prove to be a problem for Red Bull, and we may see some of their favouritism towards Max slip through the cracks. For quite a few years now, it has seemed like Max Verstappen has been favoured over his teammate by Red Bull. The favouritism Red Bull showed towards Max Verstappen was thought to be a reason for Daniel Ricciardo leaving the team. It does not help those accusations when Christian Horner is discrediting his second driver. After Sergio Perez crossed the checkered line in Baku, Red Bull's team boss still found some time to have a dig at his second driver. On the radio to Max, Horner said, "Checo got a little lucky with the safety car there, but it's a long season and very good points today. Great team result, well done." This certainly sounds like Horner trying to make Max feel better about Checo winning the race. But it was not just Christian Horner who had a very interesting radio message after the race in Baku. At the end of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Sergio Perez went on the radio and said, "Look guys, we're still in the fight." It sounds like something that any driver would normally say to their garage after an impressive race win to get back into the championship fight. But in the context of a title fight against your teammate, it makes the message more interesting. What it sounded like was Sergio Perez talking to his side of the garage, saying that him and his team were back in the title fight. It's difficult to read into those sorts of messages, but it did sound like Perez saying he was ready for a title fight, even if Red Bull were to be favouring Max Verstappen. Sky Sports reporter Ted Kravitz had similar thoughts on the radio message. Kravitz said, "It sounded like Perez was talking to his engineer and mechanic only, and not the rest of the team. He was saying, we're still in the fight, we can't have issues like we did in Melbourne, and we can still get this championship." Red Bull will want to make sure that this radio message does not turn into anything more. Sergio Perez can't be working against Red Bull. The message does not look great on the team themselves either. Why would Sergio Perez be speaking to just his side of the garage when F1 is a team sport? So far, we've not seen any obvious examples of Max Verstappen getting preferential on-track treatment over his teammate Checo. There were certainly no team orders in Miami, as Max Verstappen had to use the DRS to get past Sergio Perez. Red Bull did not seem keen on swapping positions without a real overtake. There also does not seem to be any obvious favouritism in qualifying. At the moment, both drivers are happily giving each other a tow on the straights in alternating races, which means the system is fair and it helps the team overall. So on the outside, we're not seeing any immediate signs that Red Bull are pushing Max towards the title instead of Checo. But from the team's point of view, there are a lot of reasons why they might be looking to get Max out the front instead of Sergio. Red Bull made a huge investment in Max Verstappen when they gave him a contract that lasted until 2028, the longest and largest contract on the grid. Considering he's the highest paid driver on the grid, you can understand why Red Bull would want to see Max at the front of the grid. Verstappen is still only 25 years old, so it is likely that Red Bull could get another decade out of the Dutchman, while Perez is coming towards the end of his F1 career as he approaches his mid-30s. It is very difficult to say exactly how Max Verstappen is feeling about his teammate challenging him for the title like this. Unlike his father, Max has been gracious in defeat, seen congratulating Checo for both of his wins so far this season. In fact, former F1 World Champion Damon Hill noticed this graciousness after the race in Baku. Hill said, "I saw Max and Checo get out of the car, and he gave Checo a hug actually. A big handshake and a hug, so I think there is respect there." So while it seems like everything is good between the Red Bull teammates, there have been reports stating the opposite. Over the last few days, there have been reports that Verstappen wants Red Bull to get rid of Sergio Perez, with Daniel Ricciardo being lined up as the replacement. The reports state that Max Verstappen is unhappy with Sergio Perez, with some reports even saying that Max wants his teammate dropped right now in the middle of the season. I mean, this would be an insane move, which is why it's pretty unlikely. But it could be another sign that Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez aren't the best friends Red Bull wants you to think they are. So what do you think? Are Red Bull favouring Max Verstappen, or are we going to see a title fight between Max and Checo this season? Why not put your thoughts in the comments down below? While you're down there, why not hit the like button and subscribe? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.